Episode 7 of The Acolyte has left me with some mixed thoughts. I did generally enjoy what the episode was doing, but it kind of reinforced my impression coming out of episode 3 that episode 3 wasn't really necessary for what the show was trying to do. In episode 1 and 2, we kind of got the version of the story that Osha had grown up believing. Episode 3 showed that version again, and then episode 7 has filled in the blanks. But while each successive retelling of what happened on Brendok has kind of filled in some gaps, I don't think any of it has led to a kind of revolutionary understanding of what happened at the time. With a lot of the ultimate message coming down to a lack of communication, with everyone being unwilling to do what Soul tells Osha she needs to do, be brave enough to say what they really want, I almost feel like leaving a little bit more unsaid in episode 3 as we go through the series might have worked a bit better. What I think did work well about the whole setup is it showed how all the characters were acting with limited information. I think one of the fears was that the Jedi would be portrayed as having gone in intentionally and aggressively trying to take out the cult. But while their actions, especially Torben and Soul, did contribute to the situation, there was a lot more nuance to what everyone was doing than that. On both sides of the situation, especially with Soul and Anastasia, you clearly have characters who think they're acting in the best interests of the girls, and where even if you don't necessarily agree with the actions each takes, or even if you can see some of the underlying selfishness in their actions, you can still generally understand why the information they had leads them to make the decisions they do. And I think it kind of builds on the tragedy of Soul's character to have one of his defining mistakes being that he misidentified which of the twins was May and which was Osha towards the end, when Anastasia is kind of trying to transport herself and May away from that situation. He doesn't know what's going on. He thinks based on what he's heard that Anastasia is going to be sacrificing Osha, and he thinks that's what's going on there. But because he's acting from a situation where he thinks he knows best, he has this underlying need for an acolyte and an apprentice, and because he doesn't understand the nature of the power that he's dealing with, he reacts with fear in that moment, killing Anastasia, who was probably his biggest ally in the whole situation. Indara and the council had already decided that a hands-off approach was going to be best here, that they didn't actually want to interfere. On the other hand, we have Torben, who has this clear want to go home, and this is where we see Anastasia make her biggest mistake. The invasion of his mind that we see when they're confronting the witches at the ritual really isn't something you can mark down on the good side of things. And Anastasia kind of makes the same mistake Soul does that Indara chastises him for twice in the episode. Anastasia wants the Jedi gone, and she sees that Torben also wants the Jedi gone. I'm pretty sure what's going on there is she is reinforcing this idea within his mind, and that's what prompts him to take whatever steps he needs to make that happen. It's possible that's me misinterpreting what's going on with her power there, but what I think is going on is she doesn't really recognize the implications that might have. She didn't see the possibility that the Jedi's fastest way out might be through them. Torben's more self-interested counterpart on the Coven side is Mother Coral. More than anyone else in the situation, she's the one taking the steps to escalate. She's clearly very threatened by the Jedi and afraid that they'll find out whatever went on in the creation of the twins. She's looking for not just any way to get rid of the Jedi, but also for any way to make sure that Osha and May, who is more willing, will follow what she wants. It's May, Osha, and the Coven who ultimately suffer for this, though, with some of May's worst impulses being reinforced by Coral, and this is probably something that's been going on throughout their entire relationship. Also notably, though, when we see all the bodies of the witches in episode 3, Coral isn't among them, and while she teleports away with them in that scene, we don't see her with the group when they're mind-controlling Kelnaka. And after Soul chooses to save Osha and let May fall, we still don't know how May got out of there, and I think Coral may have had a hand in that. Not that I think that May is aware that Coral's alive or helped her in that situation, but I think that there's still more to see with Coral. The witches all collapse when Indara forces them out of Kelnaka's mind, but I'm actually starting to think that maybe they weren't dead when Soul and Osha run past them. This is the kind of thing that Soul might normally notice, but we've already seen that when it comes to Osha, he's kind of blinded to everything else. More than anything else this episode with Soul, I think it does reinforce how much he really wanted his own Padawan, and what it might have meant to see what happened to Jeki. I think ultimately the core of the show will come down to how May and Osha react to getting this information, and how they react to having it kept from them. Soul is basically telling Mei this at the first opportunity, so I actually think Mei might be receptive to what he's trying to say. Meanwhile, Kaimir, who kept Mei in the dark for so long, is being honest up front with Osha despite being very manipulative and the fact that he took her captive. I'm still curious what's going to be going on with the overall Sith in this period, but I am also interested in seeing how this wraps up for those primary characters of Soul, Mei, and Osha. That's going to do it for this episode review, though tonight we will be talking about the episode with Eckhart's Ladder on Tapcaf Transmissions, so I hope to see some of you there.